Texas Math Mundo audience. Today we have a real treat. We have the 2015 Class 4A State Champion in Calculator Applications and Mathematics, Mrs. Kirsten Keller, a proud Abilene Wylie Bulldog. Right ahead. Let me take a moment and ask you, if you enjoy this content, please hit the subscription button and the notification bell, smash that like button, and leave a comment below. The 2015 State Champion in Calculator Applications and Mathematics Class 4A, right ahead. My name is Saul Cantu, and this is Texas Math Mundo. It is my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Kirsten Keller. She is the 2015 Class 4A State Champion in Calculator Applications and Mathematics. She is a proud Abilene Wylie Bulldog. I must mention that her calculator score was a record at the time. Welcome, Miss Kirsten Keller.
Awesome, great to be here.
Awesome. It should also be noted that if anybody searches the archives, they'll find you under your maiden name, which is Ms. Kirsten McDonough.
Mm-hmm.
All right, good. So for those searching the archives, all right, awesome. So let's start off with how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm out here in Salt Lake City. So.
Oh, Salt Lake City's home now?
Yep, that's where home is right now. So that's where I came up for school, and so I never left.
Okay. How you been handling the pandemic?
It's been pretty interesting. I've been working from home basically ever since the pandemic started, so it's been nice to have a job that allows me to do that. But, kind of like everyone else, you kind of get fatigued by the screens and all that good stuff. So
what is your career? What do you do for a living?
So I started off my career as an actuary in life insurance. And then I shifted onto the asset side, and now I help manage a public equity portfolio primarily for a pension plan.
Okay, wow. Sounds complicated. and sounds math intensive.
Yeah, that was the initial draw to actuarial work was I really loved math, which is kind of clear by my record in UIL. And so I continued that by getting a degree in mathematics in college, and then that kind of led me to the actuarial field because it's a good application of math and especially statistics. And then I just kind of took the opportunity to move to the asset side. It wasn't necessarily something I was looking for, but I found ways to apply mathematics as well in my current role.
Oh, awesome. So I'm sure that takes a lion's share of your time, but when not engaged in work, how do you find time, or what are your hobbies and interests?
Yeah, so growing up, I did ballet, so I like to spend some spare time taking open ballet classes or teaching classes. I also live right in the mountains up here in Utah, so I've made a hobby out of hiking and kind of getting outside. And then I've spent a lot of my spare time actuarial work is notorious for its testing. And so I've spent a lot of my time taking tests up until now. So this past year I became a a certified associate of the Society of Actuaries, which is the kind of the first level of certification. It's about 7 out of the 10 tests that you can do if you want to be a full fellow. And then I took more exams to be a chartered financial analyst. So I just took the last exam in that kind of set of exams this past month.
Wow, that sounds intensive. Congratulations. I have heard that about actuaries. I have heard that it's a test intensive and there's a lot of them. So,
Yeah.
wow, good luck on that path. So,
Yeah. Thanks.
awesome, awesome. But you love the numbers, so there you go. That helps.
Yeah, yeah. And, growing up, I took a lot of tests. So if there's anything that UIL prepares you for, it's a lot of tests. So it hasn't been too bad.
So you're right. I'm looking at your UIL results, and it's just so impressive. The best score in the state in calculator, mathematics state champion. I mean, it's just so impressive, that record. So I'm kind of curious about the forces that shaped you. I'd like to ask, where are you from, born and raised, and what is your cultural heritage?
Yeah, so I was actually born in Los Angeles when my father was in med school. But by the time we moved to Abilene, I was just about to turn 4, so I don't really have memories of that. So I say that I kind of was basically born and raised in Texas, though I don't have the accent to support it. But anyway, so most of my heritage, I would say, comes from living in Texas. So I definitely miss it. It's been about probably 6 years now since I've lived there, but it really shaped who I am. And my family still lives there as well. So I have a younger brother still at Wiley, so shout out to him.
Oh, really? Okay. Is he in the UIL team, by the way?
No, he's not quite as interested in math as I was, but anyway, he's a senior, so he'll graduate this coming spring.
So you're a West Texas lady.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, all right. So when did you realize that you had a talent for mathematics?
Yeah, so I remember my grade was the first one that was offered the opportunity to start in what they call the Investigative Math program at Wiley, which was basically their kind of UIL and TMSCA prep programs. And they would have a period set aside each day where we would practice the exams and sharpen our skills. And I think I was recommended by my 5th grade teacher because I had done, been at the top of the class in whatever math I was, whatever math we were doing in my 5th grade classes. And I remember going to the meeting, and I never really thought of myself as a math person, but my mom just encouraged me to try it, and I was like, oh, I have to go. They're saying I have to go on the weekends, that doesn't sound very fun. At this point in time, I was, probably 11 years old or something. So anyway, but I tried it out. And as soon as I started that class, I really realized that I had a knack for it. So I stuck with it all the way from 6th grade through 12th grade. And it was really great that I had the opportunity to start that early, though, and that we were the first grade that was able to do that.
So that investigative math class, wow, that's awesome that the district devoted the resources to do such a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and we had some really awesome teachers. Carol Stringfellow was the one that kind of spearheaded it in the junior high. And then by the time I made it to high school, Coach Perkins he's now at Argyle, but he was kind of spearheading that when I was a freshman and sophomore. So those 2 teachers, along with a myriad of others that were supportive, really were kind of the backbone of that program. And people were really just devoted out of a love for math. It wasn't necessarily that we had the most resources, I would say, but we had some determined people and some people that really had a passion for math.
So that 6th grade class, would you say that was your entry point into competitive mathematics?
Yes. Uh-huh. I'd never really seen anything in competitive mathematics before. So yeah, that was kind of our launching point.
So I do want to mention that there are many female champions, right? But it's still the scene is mostly male dominated, kind of still. That lingers a bit. How was your experience as a young lady going through that stuff?
I really embrace it. And I would say that I found myself to be more the minority as a female, especially in college, more so than even in my math competitions. But I was always someone that liked to surprise people and liked to kind of be the underdog or, the supposed underdog. And so I really enjoyed it and embraced it. And yeah, I kind of saw it as kind of something that motivated me. So,
And you're going to be an inspiration not to just the females. Many all students who come across this interview, I think, will be fascinated by your story, but especially the females. So I think you're going to provide such a great a model and image for these young ladies who come across this interview. So that's awesome.
yeah, I hope so.
So as you will serve as an inspiration, who are your main inspirations for yourself?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of really great influences in my life. Growing up, I had a father that was a doctor, and he was really devoted to education. I grew up in the car instead of listening to the radio. Oftentimes, we're listening to college lectures just for fun. It was just kind of the spirit of enjoying learning, and so that kind of helped me to enjoy it as well. And then on top of that, too, in the classroom, I just had really great coaches. Like I mentioned before, Carol Stringfellow was kind of the first one that was such a big influence on me. And then my high school coach, Coach Perkins, was really great too. And then I had another coach in junior high named Miss Martinez that was really encouraging as well. And I would say that some of the coaches not only were just good on the content, but they were also good in helping support the students in reaching what they could obtain. Normally in your regular math classes, you just kind of learn what everyone else is learning. And if you do well, then you're limited to learning what, the curriculum is. But I had a lot of really good coaches that, if I wanted to start learning calculus, then they were really supportive of it and provided me the materials and, gave me the space in the room to grow on my own. And so I really appreciated that as well.
Fantastic. That's fantastic to be able to help a person realize their full potential. That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, I do want to get to UIL, the 2015 school year in Abilene Wylie High School. What was Abilene Wylie High School like?
Oh man. Well, typical West Texas. I remember a lot of craze about football always in high school. At that point in time, we didn't even have a real kind of auditorium, but we had, quite the football stadium, I would say. But no, it was. I have really fond memories of Wylie High School. We were the smallest high school of the three high schools in Abilene. I believe now it's a 5A school. Back then it was 4A. So there were about 200, like I think it was 240 kids in my class. So it was a pretty tight knit culture because we'd all grown up together since I'd been going there since first grade. And most of the kids had been there even since pre-K. And so everyone knew each other. It was kind of this familiar culture. And it was also a really supportive culture as well.
Okay. Hey, it's Texas. Of course, you're going to have a fantastic football stadium.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. Now, you've very graciously mentioned your coaches, Martinez, Miss Perkins, Mr. Perkins, Stringfellow, and that's great. How about, did you have many teammates? Was there a cohesive team? Or were you like more of a solo operator?
Yeah, so I actually had a pretty unique situation. So I'm not sure exactly the situation, but so I mentioned when I came into high school, Coach Perkins he was also the varsity basketball coach, I should mention. So this guy was doing it all. And at the end of my sophomore year, after the state meet, he told me that he was leaving to go to Argyle. And that was quite the hit because Argyle was our main competitor, the whole time I had been competing. And he told me when he left that basically I was going to be the coach. And so after that, I kind of turned into the coach. I taught most of the classes. We had kind of teachers assigned to the class, but I was the one that knew all the material. And so I kind of led the classes and put together the materials for the other students in it. We still had the period and everything. And then my senior year, I still kind of led most of it, but the calculus teacher at the time, his name's Mr. Williams, he was brought on to teach the class and to kind of be the coach. And so I kind of helped him his first year. And then I left, and then Argyle took him too. And so
Ah,
I believe they've found some substitutes since then. But yeah, it was kind of tough. I kind of turned into the coach for my last 2 years, but it was really fun. They called me. It was my nickname was Team Mom.
well, you had the expertise, and you are a two-time, two-event state champion. So they did pretty well for themselves to have you assist the group.
Yeah.
I will say, Abilene currently has a pretty strong team, so you'd be happy to know that their current team is very good. So just so you
Well,
know.
that's good to hear. Yeah, it's kind of hard to keep tabs sometimes, but yeah, I hope they continue the tradition.
So what were your study habits?
Study habits. So the class period was pretty good at giving us time to practice. A lot of times, on the weekends, if there was like, the infamous last five problems of the calculator test, we would spend the first, half of the competitive season trying to figure those out so we can have them down by the end of the season. So especially when I was like coach, I'd spend a lot of my time figuring those all out for the rest of the team.
I know what you're talking
um,
about. The study list.
yeah, but in the summers, I would say I did some catch up work, especially in high school. Because in junior high, you don't really you have TMSCA where you compete against your grade, and it's not as a rush to kind of get up to speed. But in high school, as a freshman, you get thrown in with the seniors, and all of a sudden you find that you're behind because they know calculus and you don't. And so I remember the summer after my freshman year, I just took it upon myself to learn calculus, the whole
Wow.
thing, because I wanted to be competitive again. I did compete in the mathematics event my freshman year and the number sense event. But I wanted to, place in the top three. And so there were things like that where in the summer I would have a little bit of some training to catch up and to keep my skills fresh. Um, so you got to put in some of the work. I wouldn't say it took over my life. I was very active, and I had ballet practices most weekends and most weeknights, and then I had my normal school work, and I even had Bible study at 6 a.m. every morning on the
Wow.
weekdays. So I kept myself pretty busy, but yeah, you gotta put in some hours.
Sounds like you were pretty much a disciplined, a driven, motivated, in several aspects of your life. So awesome. Um, did you go to many tournaments?
Yeah, we went to a lot of them. We would go to a lot of the practice meets. I would say probably a couple at the beginning of the season. And then, of course, in the second half, we would go to, the district and region. And then we would take later on when I got into high school, they started doing these virtual meets. So we would do some of those too. And then in junior high, we would do math counts, which was always fun.
Yeah.
You get the buzzers and everything, so it's kind of like a TV show almost. But so we got plenty of opportunities to compete. It's a little bit hard in Texas, because they wake you up early and you have to drive across the state to go to them.
In West Texas, I imagine. I bet the distances can be long.
Yeah, definitely. So you have to be pretty devoted to wake up at 5 a.m. for a math meet when you're, a surly teenager.
Oh, yes, I agree. I agree. Um, so you're the calculator state champion. So I'm very curious. Which calculator did you use?
So I used, of course, a reverse Polish notation HP calculator. And it was actually, they upgraded the calculators when I got to high school, but I was so just set in this one calculator that I'd been using basically since I started in sixth grade that I just kept with it. And it was a pretty old HP, but it did the job, so eventually you get good enough where you don't have to really look at it anymore, and you can just kind of go.
Do you remember the model?
I could actually go grab it
Oh,
and
really?
show you at the end. But,
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But HP, reverse Polish notation, for sure.
yeah, yeah,
But you still have it in your possession.
yeah,
That's interesting. That is interesting.
yeah. After a while, they just said it was mine.
Well, really, exactly. And you earned it. You more than earned it. Uh,
Yeah.
so, do you remember the state meets from those years? Or what do you find as most memorable about that year and those years?
Yeah, so I remember being really excited my freshman year, my first year going to state UIL. I was, the only freshman, the only girl on the math team, or any of the math teams, I guess. We had a math, I believe we had, so I was the only one that qualified in number sense. I qualified as an individual because their number sense team didn't qualify. And then, and then I was the alternate for the math team, and then someone couldn't compete, so I got to compete on the math team as well. But it was kind of a funny sight because here I was in my braces as like this little 13-year-old. I think I was 13 or something like that, walking around UT Austin campus with all these like junior guys, So I thought I was pretty cool. But it was a good year to kind of get acquainted with all the people that I would end up competing against the rest of my high school. But those meets were some of the best times in high school that I remember. You get a bunch of your friends and you get to go on a weekend trip, and sure, you got to compete, and that's always exciting. But then you get to kind of relax and hang out and explore Austin. So they were always really fun.
That would be memorable, especially for a freshman. And the environment's so electric and exciting. When you see all the top competitors from the state, it's just such a hyped environment. It's so, I can see that being very memorable.
Yeah, yeah.
You consider the vastness of the state of Texas, and you're a state champion. That's really, really impressive to me. Number one, how does it feel to be a state champion?
It was really awesome. It's really fun, especially after so many years of competing, to be able to claim that title was really special. And actually, my senior year, I tore my ACL skiing on New Year's Day. So I remember you'll see it in the pictures, but at the TMSCA state meet, I was actually in a wheelchair because I just had ACL surgery the week before. And it was a big pick me up to, win state and go win a scholarship, even though I had, had this traumatic injury. So it was just a really good way to culminate my senior year and feel like I had a win.
Now, where do you keep those gold medals?
So they're still at my home in Texas. And actually, that's a pretty funny story because I left them all at home and I had them on these hooks in my bedroom. And my bedroom, no one occupies it anymore because I just have a younger brother. And one night, the house alarm goes off, and my parents called the police because it sounded like glass had broken. And so the police at 3 a.m. searched the entire house and couldn't find anything. And what had caused the alarm, what sounded like glass breaking, was the hooks had broken from the weight of the metals and caused such a noise that caused the house alarm to go off. So my parents don't quite like that I left them all there, but because they're tormenting them at 3 a.m. But anyway, they're still all at home, so I'll go back and get them eventually.
Well, I'm sure they're very proud of those medals. It's a big deal, especially the state ones. Those state ones are special. So that's really great. And so you end up going to what, Salt Lake City or Utah for college? Where did you go to college?
So I went to the University of Utah. Go Utes.
Okay.
I majored in math and did a minor in computer science.
So the next question seems a little bit obvious, but I'll ask it anyways. Did your UIL experience help you with your college and career?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, from UIL, you obviously get all the testing skills. And I think that especially came across when I took, the standardized tests, the SAT and ACT, and then any test I've taken since then, you kind of get the skills you learn at being able to take time tests really well and efficiently. But on top of that, just being able to solve those problems. I remember there were a lot of number theory problems on the math exam, and a lot of just like really interesting, difficult geometry problems, even on the calculator tests, that we didn't really solve by consulting, like someone at a university or anything. We just kind of like figured it out by ourselves a lot of times. And so I actually came to college and took a lot of those math theory classes, like number theory and things of that nature. And I remember thinking, man, I thought I proved that, and it was like, oh, that was actually Fermat's theorem or something like that. And so it was good to learn more of the background, but I had been introduced to a lot of the concepts, at least the basic concepts, to a lot of the classes that I took as a math major, which was a really big leg up for me.
Okay, wow, wow. So, have you ever returned to? I know your life's up in Utah now, but have you ever returned to Abilene Wylie High School, or is that just a part of your distant past?
Yeah, so I go home every once in a while to see my parents for the holidays. And I like to, go visit people from high school. Like I would go visit Coach Perkins, but he's since moved away. I would go visit Miss Stringfellow, but she's since moved away. So a lot of the people are no longer there. But I do visit those that I can. Even last time I was down there, I was able to go see one of my retired English teachers, which was really fun. So I like to go back to my roots.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Um, so here, I was going to ask, what do you value the most about that UIL journey?
Yeah, so I think if anything, it really scratched my competitive itch and really taught me how much that I can accomplish when I put my mind to it. Especially if I hadn't taken that class, I think I would have just done well in my classes from there on out, and I just wouldn't really have thought much of it. But to be in that environment really taught me that I can really accomplish a lot and more than I think I can. Um, and especially, if you dedicate yourself to something, you can really get a lot get a lot of stuff done and learn a lot of new things. And so I think that it really just gave me the experience that I needed to be able to fulfill my potential.
Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. Uh, and so the next question I have for you is, and I consider this one of those most important questions I ask. As young students come across this interview, um, what advice do you have for them? You could address young ladies if you want, all UIL students who come across this, or even a younger version of yourself that might have come across this interview. What advice would you give them?
I would say just to not take advantage of the UIL program, not take it for granted, because I mean, especially leaving Texas to come to Utah, I tutored all throughout college, and the students up in Utah or a lot of different states don't have anything like the UIL program in Texas, and so I think that that's kind of just something um, that none of the students should take for granted up there and really take advantage of, and really, try to learn as much as they can from it, from those opportunities to compete. Because that's when you really sharpen your skills, is when you have the chance to compete against someone and you're going head to head, right? Is when you're really motivated to win and to learn. And so I would just say to take advantage as much as you can of those opportunities.
Here, here. Texas does it right. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Texas does it right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, so, two event state champion 2015, Mrs. Kirsten Keller. What does the future hold for you?
Yeah. I don't know. I've always kind of been someone that likes to be opportunistic, especially with my career. I really like what I'm doing right now. Being in financial markets every day is really interesting, and looking for ways to apply statistical methods where I can is also really fascinating. Um, and I feel like I kind of have a competitive advantage there in the field. a little bit. I would say maybe the minority of people coming into finance have as strong as as much of a dedication to math and more technical fields. And so future probably holds for me to continue along in finance and continue to try to apply math where I can. And who knows? I keep telling my husband that one day I'd like to go back and get a PhD just to go back to the theoretical math that I like, because that's what I really enjoyed the most in college, especially, is the theoretical side of mathematics. But right now I'm going for what the world wants. I'm paying the bills. So maybe I'll return to that one day.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. But I understand the lingering passion in your heart for mathematics, though. I do understand that. Wow. So, any parting words or final thoughts as we conclude this interview?
Yeah. So, I mean, I just have such fond memories of UIL. And so I just want to say that I personally am very appreciative of all those that, put all of the hard work and effort into the program, all of the coaches that not only I had, but that are devoted to the other schools in Texas. And I interacted with a lot of them too, even though they were our enemies. I got to see all the Argyle coaches on a regular basis, and they were always really nice and encouraging. And, even the test makers like Larry White, I remember meeting him, and I was always really inspired by, the speeches he would give to us as he was giving out the awards at state. And so I would just, like to say that, the UIL program really put me in the position where I am now, and it's really helped me in my life and in a myriad of ways, not only, in my career, but also just in the discipline that I have and in the skill set that I've developed. And so I really owe a lot to UIL, and I really hope that, the next generation can appreciate it and can keep it going and can keep developing it, because I really think that it is developing the next, subset of engineers and mathematicians that the world definitely needs. So I hope that people are encouraged to continue on with it.
Wonderful words, wonderful words. Mrs. Kirsten Keller, as you peruse the archives and you come across that 2015 year and you find your name, you can't help but be impressed. But I'm very appreciative for you giving like a voice and a face to that archive name. Now we have a face, now we have a voice, and I can't tell you how appreciative I am for you coming on the show and sharing your story. I come away even more impressed.
Well, thanks so much for having me on. It's fun to walk down memory lane.
I appreciate you. I wish you the very best. Farewell.
Thanks so much.
Wow, that was fantastically enjoyable. What an incredible lady. The 2015 state champion in calculator applications and mathematics class 4A, Miss Kirsten Keller, a proud Abilene Wylie Bulldog. What a pleasure to interview her. Let me take a moment and remind you that if you enjoy this content, please hit the subscription button and the notification bell, smash that like button, and leave a comment below. I hope you enjoyed that. There's plenty of wonderful stuff in store for my channel. I really appreciate your support. My name is Saul Cantu, and this is Texas Math Mundo. Farewell.